What's good everybody, this is CP and welcome to a very special video. Today I'm going to talk about expectations for every NHL team in the Metropolitan Division. And before I deep dive into the teams and go into the juicy details, I'm going to quickly break down the tiers and roughly describe what each category means. For the first tier, we have Hunt for Stanley. Basically, it means that teams in this tier should be considered a contender in their division, and the ultimate goal should be hunting for the Stanley Cup. In fact, anything less than a third round appearance should be considered a huge disappointment. The next tier, we have shorter golf season. Basically, for teams in this particular category, they should be good enough to be a playoff team. Maybe not win the cup or go on a super deep run, but a round or two in the playoffs could be very possible. Besides that, they should still have enough time to enjoy most of the off season by a slightly shortened season on the golf course. The next tier I have is the Dark Horse tier. This tier is perhaps the most interesting with the biggest question marks in the division. It will mainly consist of teams with the ability to surprise or overachieve, but at the same time they might tease and disappoint fans by just barely missing the playoffs. The next tier we have is Ponder for Connor. So for teams that fall in the Ponder for Connor tier, if things go south, I think it might be worthwhile for them to ponder for Connor, aka tank for Connor Bedard in the 2023 NHL draft. Because from what many say, Bedard is that next guy, and opportunities like this come around once in a blue moon. So in short, the juice might be worth the squeeze for Connor Bedard in next year's draft. So once again, to make things more fun and interesting, I'll let my low budget division wheel decide which team I'm going to talk about. So let's take this wheel for a spin here. The first overall pick from the wheel goes to the New Jersey Devils. So let's head over to the Garden State and check out the Devils. Sorry Devil fans, but heading into this season, I would probably still put them in the Ponder for Connor tier. AKA, I don't really have high hopes for the Devils to do much damage in the Metro Division this year. To start, they didn't really make too many big changes in the summer. They did land Andre Palat in free agency, who is a proven Stanley Cup winner and can give you around 15 to 18 goals and around 40 to 50 points. And that adding him into the top 6 should give their offense a nice boost. Besides that, the Devils also had another sneaky good pickup with Erik Haula. He's not a major game changer by any means, but he should give the Devils more scoring depth up front, especially in the bottom 9. But overall, if we look at the rest of their roster, especially their defense and goaltending, I don't think it's up to par yet. So I think it might be at least another year of development for the young stars. And overall, I think that's okay for Devil fans to be patient, because their two young stars in Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes are still very young in their early 20s. Yeah, so in reality, there is really no rush to force them to win right now this year. In fact, leaving the door open for them to have a shot to land Connor Bedard might be a huge move worth considering, as it could give them the three-headed monster at the center position for years to come. And if they do somehow land Bedard, seeing him grow with Hischier and Hughes might be something that pushes this franchise to the next level, much like the Pittsburgh Penguins did with Jordan Staal of getting Malkin and Crosby a few years back, or even with the Edmonton Oilers right now with Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. So overall, Ponder for Connor for New Jersey would be my tier for them heading into this season. Do you agree or disagree? Okay, so next up, looks like we will be headed to North Carolina to talk about the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Hurricanes in the Hunt for Stanley tier. To me, they should be one of the best teams in the Metropolitan Division. And going further, some may even double down and say they're one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And I personally think it's hard to argue against that, because overall they had a very successful season last year and ended up winning the division. But obviously they didn't get the result they wanted in the playoffs, yet they were very close and was actually one game away from reaching the third round. Besides that, this team has been very good for the past 4 seasons, and I feel like they're ready to take the next step to the next level. Main reason is because they made a couple key moves this summer. One was pretty much adding Max Pacioretty for free on offense, and he's a proven scorer who should definitely help improve their top 6. And they also might have gotten Brent Burns on the blue line for a steal. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't really follow the Hurricanes that closely. But on paper, it seems like the San Jose Sharks got very little for a 54.26 minute defenseman. Obviously, those guys are a little bit older now, but they definitely help improve the Hurricanes, not only statistically, but I also think that they add experience and veteran leadership into the room, which will probably go a long way in the playoffs. To me, making moves like this tells me the Canes are going for it. And if we look at their roster, their top 4 defense also looks very solid. All guys pretty much in the peak of their prime. And adding Burns might be that missing piece that pushes their defense to the next level. Overall, if I were in this division, I wouldn't want to play the Carolina Hurricanes in a 7-game series, as it seems like they could be going for broke at the trade deadline and add even more firepower. And if you were to ask me, picking the Canes to go deep next year might be one of the safer picks in the Metropolitan Division next year. Do you agree with my take on the Hurricanes, or do you think I'm overrating them a little bit? Let me know in the comments below. Next, we will head over to the Big Apple and talk about the New York Rangers. Many would agree right here, but I think they should be in the hunt for Stanley tier. To me, the Rangers are another heavyweight in the Metropolitan Division. Overall, they had a very successful season last year, made it to the 3rd round, and actually fell 2 games short of making the Stanley Cup Finals. So a huge step forward for that group down there in New York. And roster-wise, if we take a look, there's actually a lot to like about this team. In my opinion, they have a good mix of experience and youth with high upside. As you can see with guys like Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, Zibanejad, and now Vincent Trocheck. All of those guys are around the same age, are proven performers, and are ready to win right now. On top of that, we still can't forget about their 2 high-end draft picks in Kaapo Kakko and Lafreniere, who aren't developing as fast as many would like, but they are slowly coming along, and who knows, maybe they could break out within the next 2 years. Then on defense, I think this might be one of their strongest areas, as they have one of the best young defensemen in the game in Adam Fox, along with another high-end pick like Keandre Miller, who looks like he can be a solid D-man in the NHL for a long time. Obviously, most of us know about Jacob Trouba, and then if we look further down the list, they have 2 other young D-men not many talk about, especially if they don't follow the Rangers, which includes Braden Schneider and Ryan Lindgren. In Schneider's case, he's not even 21 years old yet, and he looked pretty good as a rookie in the playoffs, so I think he has plenty of room to grow, while Lindgren is a little bit older at 24, but honestly, that's not that old in NHL terms, so in that I feel like he could quietly be a solid complementary defender for the Rangers for the next several years. And then finally in net, the Rangers might have one of the biggest cheat codes in the league in Igor Shesterkin. As long as Shesterkin is healthy and playing up to par, I can't see the Rangers not be a top 3 team in this division. Once again, to me, the Rangers should be considered one of the top dogs of the Metro Division. Do you think that I might be crazy and I'm overrating them? Let me know in the comments below. Next, looks like we're going to the city of brotherly love and talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. Hopefully, I don't really piss off too many Philly fans here, but if I had to pick, I would probably put them in the ponder for Connor tier for now. They had a horrible year last year and was at the bottom of the standings in this division. Although I must say that a huge reason for that is probably due to major injuries to players like Couturier, Ryan Ellis, and Kevin Hayes also missed some time as well. And right now on paper, if we take a look at their top 2 lines, it actually doesn't look that bad to me. However, the biggest question marks and issue with this roster is probably their bottom 6 forward group, and whether they can provide enough offense. On top of that, is their defense good enough? D'Angelo was obviously a nice pickup, but to me, their defense might be in trouble again if a guy like Ryan Ellis can't stay healthy and play at least 60 to 70 games. Because if you inject him into the lineup, then everybody moves down and it makes their defense that much deeper. Also, it'll be very interesting to see what John Tortorella brings to this team. However, I feel like bringing him on board was probably one of the best moves Philly could make, because if I were to pick one coach to help a team overachieve, Tortorella might be that guy. Now, if the players buy in and Philly can get off to a hot start early, then I actually feel like they could surprise some people and move up in the standings. Maybe not win the division, but definitely not be as bad as they were last year. Yeah, so with that in mind, I could be completely wrong with my tier rankings. Yeah, and who knows, maybe by the end of the year, I have to upgrade them to a higher tier. But as of right now, if I had to choose, I would still keep Philly in the ponder for Connor tier. So hopefully for Philly fans, Tortorella and friends can prove me wrong and they could move up the standings. Next, let's go to Ohio and talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, this one might surprise some people, but I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the dark horse tier. First off, huge offseason for the Jackets. They landed one of the biggest free agents in the market in Johnny Gaudreau. On top of that, they were also able to extend Patrick Laine, which will be huge. because I don't know about you, but watching Gaudreau and Laine for the next few years should be really fun. And they could be one of the best duos in this division. Overall, if we look at the Blue Jackets roster, I feel like they're rather well balanced, especially on the top 3 lines. They have a handful of guys who are capable of getting you around 20 goals and 50 points consistently. So on paper, I don't think scoring should be a huge problem. And bringing in a 100-point guy like Johnny Gaudreau should bring this team to the next level, at least offensively. And we also can't forget that the Jackets weren't horrible last year. They actually finished almost 20 points ahead of 7th place New Jersey. So I feel like they could build on last year, especially if a younger guy like Cole Sillinger breaks out again next year and becomes a 40 to 50 point player. So if all goes well, I feel like Columbus could be one of those dark horse teams that find themselves somewhere in the 4 to 5 range, with an outside chance to make the playoffs next year. Blue Jackets also might be one of the most unpredictable teams in this division and can be a sneaky competitive team for the next several seasons. Am I high on the Blue Jackets, or do you think my assessment is fair? Next, we will go to the City of Bridges and talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. I currently have them in the shorter golf season tier, aka I still see them as a playoff team, but to be totally honest, I'm not sure if they have it in them to go very deep this year. Yes, they still have Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, and they're still pretty good players, but I feel like the Penguins has more problems that their 2 stars can't really solve by themselves. The Pens seem to have fizzled out since their last cup in 17, and the stats don't lie since they have only made it out of the first round once in the past 5 years. And entering this season, Crosby will be 35, Malkin 36, Letang 35, and Jeff Carter will be turning 38. So in all honesty, age might be a problem down the line. For things to go well, I feel like everyone will have to stay healthy and peak at the right time. On top of that, they might need to get even more help from big moves before the trade deadline. Otherwise, I still see the Penguins as more of a 1 to 2 round playoff team again. How about you? Do you think Crosby and Malkin's window to win a cup has officially closed, or do they still have a shot at one more? Next, we'll go to Long Island to talk about the New York Islanders. Now, this one is very interesting. To me, they are one of the more unpredictable teams in the Eastern Conference. So I'll probably have to put them in a dark horse tier. Obviously, they didn't really have the type of season they really wanted last year and missed the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. But before that, this team was actually very successful as they made back-to-back conference finals and was actually 1 game away from reaching the Stanley Cup Finals. So overall, it's hard to bet against them because they still have a lot of those core guys from those Islander teams, including Matt Barzal, Brock Nelson, Anders Lee, Josh Bailey, and their famous 4th line. On defense, they also have a very young up-and-coming defenseman in Noah Dobson, who looks like a main franchise piece for this team for years to come. So assuming last year was a one-off, I could see the Islanders be right back in the playoff picture again this upcoming season. Also, if the Nazem Kadri rumors are true, and if he does become an Islander, then look out. That's even more firepower and another legit top 6 forward in their lineup. So right now, I'm still not 100% sure if this team is a true dark horse, as I think some of you may actually make a pretty good argument for them to be a playoff team as well. But it's still too early to tell, so I'll keep them as a dark horse for now. Next, we'll head to the District of Columbia and talk about Alexander Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals. Heading to this season, I still currently see them as a playoff team, aka shorter golf season tier. Like the Pittsburgh Penguins, I have them in a very similar situation, as the Capitals have failed to find much playoff success since their championship win in 2018, and for 4 straight seasons they have lost in the first round. So like Crosby, I feel like Ovechkin is still an elite player in this league and can easily give your team 50 goals this year, but I'm not sure if the team around OV can get it done. The biggest question for me is their defense. To me, on paper at least, it doesn't seem like it's championship caliber anymore, and it might be hard for them to bring in the right pieces they need to compete for another chip. But selfishly, as a hockey fan, I actually would like to see OV go for at least 1 more. And if he wants a shot to do that, I feel like this roster will also have to peak at the right time and right into the right teams to go deeper than 2 rounds. What do you think about OV and the Capitals? Do you still think they have 1 more cup in them, or are they done for good? So if we take a look at the final picture of the Metropolitan Division, I feel like it's pretty well rounded. For each category, we have an even distribution of teams. For me, the biggest questions will be whether teams like Pittsburgh and Washington still have it in them to go for at least one more cup, or has their window officially closed. Meanwhile, probably the most unpredictable and interesting teams to follow in this division are the dark horse teams, including the Blue Jackets and the Islanders. Will they overachieve and maybe even surprise and go on a deep playoff run, or will they just fall short of the playoffs? Meanwhile, I feel like Carolina and New York Ranger fans are going to go into this season with very high expectations, as they're pretty close to making that next step to make the finals and hunt for a Stanley Cup. And finally, for teams like New Jersey and Philly, I feel like it's important to be patient for at least one more year. And hopefully, if all goes well, they luck out in the lottery and they get Connor Bedard, then things can change for them real quick. What do you think about this division as a whole? And which team are you most excited to watch and follow this season? Let me know in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with everything I said in this video? Make sure you let me know in the comments below. And if you like, feel free to call me out as well. If you want to watch more of my crappy videos, then make sure you click the links on the side right here.